I'm Katrina, and this is Sow and Tare. Welcome. Thank you for coming. This is the year in review for 2024, and I want to thank you guys for being a part of it. Huge part of this channel is definitely you guys who watch this all the time, and it is awesome to have you guys. So I'm going to take a little time and go through the year. A few things happened this year, more than a few things happened this year, and we're going to get into that. It is so much fun to look back at these things. It took tons of prep time to look at this, so I hope you appreciate it. For me, this was quite possibly the busiest year I have had yet. April, I saw the place, prepped for everything, sold my house this summer, got this house, and moved in August. So I moved my whole life up to Oregon, and it's been fantastic, amazing, and all of that. So that was, however, a very stressful time getting ready and up to the move, and even a little after, because I was also working full-time, and I was also finishing a course for Quail University. The course for Quail University is raising quail in aviaries, and we did a soft launch at the beginning of September, and then unfortunately, Quail University is giving the courses back to the instructors, and so she is doing great. She's doing, we're good communication, all of that. What that means is that course will be run through me, and we're looking for appropriate place for it to live. This course will be available on my website, sowandtare.com, in February. My goal for it is that it is going to be an inexpensive platform, so you guys can have it for cheaper, because that's really where the cost is for some of these courses, is the platform it's on. You have to pay for it, and hope that somebody is, and hope enough people are buying the course to support that platform. And it'll be coming back to you guys soon. So if you're wondering where that's been, it's coming back. So I worked my butt off on that. And so all of that is happening. I had to get it done before I moved, because, as you guys may have noticed, I did not bring the quail with me. Moving across state lines into Oregon, you have to provide paperwork and that, everybody's good. I was not MPIP certified, so I would have had to have all of those quail, have vet appointments, have tests for pylori, just every single one of them. And I decided to not do that. They're easy enough to restart. I need to have the housing for them. That is a goal next year. So that happened. I moved with the chickens, with the rabbits. I did not move with the quail, and gained 4 new cats. So yeah, there is an interesting thing there. I had cats that came with the property. Mama Kitty had babies the day I came up, before I actually moved, to come up and work with an electrician here. So I know when they were born. They were born in August. So there we go. Because I moved to Oregon, and because I was moving from a place with tons and tons of food, and I was moving to a place where I wasn't sure what was there. I knew there was some fruit trees, but not a whole lot, and I didn't really know it was there. I was preserving the heck out of everything. You guys saw canning, you guys saw freeze drying, you guys saw a bunch of different things. So I have enough fruit, and it's gonna last a while. So let's get into the video and share with you what happened this year. In January, we had lots of gardening happening. I had overwinter garden, and quail chicks. Quail chicks are the best. We had quail chicks going on all January. I was working on the Quail University course. I finally got all the equipment to start doing that. I was getting camera equipment together before then. I had a really fun experiment, and I haven't done the second part of that yet, which is, can I make my own pectin out of pineapple guava skins? I believe I can. I freeze dried those skins, powdered them up, and at some point we will test the theory and see if they make a good pectin substitute for the box kind. We did a little bit of urban foraging. I encourage you guys to urban forage. Those people that don't use their fruit trees, ask them if you can, make them something in return, and it is awesome. Although this happened earlier, I did put out the video for the new kitchen flooring. So kitchen flooring was put in actually the year before, but we put out that video in January. Now, talk about deep litter. You guys will learn a lot more about this in the Raising Quail and Aviaries course. In the meantime, I mean, I sifted out so much compost from my deep litter aviaries. 80 feed bags worth of compost out of 2 aviaries. It is incredibly awesome. So yeah, definitely make your own compost. It's basically free. And we have a scion exchange. So scion exchanges happen in the winter. I should be asking people for sticks, and I haven't yet. I need to do this. And scion exchanges, I mean, you can do that on your own community. So it is awesome. Basically, a lot of the scion exchanges, California rare fruit growers, happen between January and early March, usually January, February, a few in early March. So that's when you can take your cuttings and do some really, really great things for new trees. And again, we had some flood watches. At my old property, we didn't actually flood there, but the rivers around definitely flooded, and I wanted to make sure all of my animals were secure and did not get too wet. And in January, that's also when the faucet broke for the kitchen, and I learned all about plumbing. I did record that. I don't know if I'm going to actually edit it and make a video. It's no longer my property, but I did record that with the plumber teaching me basically how to plumb, which is pretty cool. So that was done in January. I thought it was done a lot later, but looking back, it's always different. In February, I did a winter garden tour for you guys, and it is a really, really neat thing to have all that stuff going on in winter. Now I'm in a colder climate. We still have things growing in winter. However, there's a lot more going on at my old place in winter. We talked about prey psychology. This is something I go into much greater detail in the Raising Quail and Aviaries course, and something I think everybody who raises animals should understand. So we talked about that. We talked about overwintering peppers. I have peppers in the green stock. Those same peppers you guys saw in that video came to Oregon with me and are currently in the spare bedroom. I need a better system for that. I have not built up any greenhouses or anything yet, so that is coming. We did a lot of freeze drying. This is throughout this year, but starting in February, we had a lot of freeze drying videos and a lot of preservation. Grew alfalfa sprouts. Teach you guys how to do these things that take 4 days and you have food. It's pretty awesome. We put in a next box for Ravioli. Ravioli is one of my rabbits. She had her babies. She's a great mama, and she did really, really great. We did more gardening and also replaced the rabbit hutch flooring for my buck. And so that was really good. You guys have a video to reference for doing that. March was super busy. We did a lot more freeze drying. A lot of freeze drying of squash and guacamole. We did a lot of that. There's so much freeze drying that happened. Guacamole is excellent freeze dried. Let me tell you, that is the number one thing that the texture and taste is exactly like when you put it into the freeze dryer once rehydrated. It is awesome. So we did that. Parmesan, my sweet, sweet buck. Parmesan went to his retirement home. And one of my friends, she already has a bunny named Bunny. And she was able to take him in as a retirement bunny. I know a lot of people in the homesteading community, when a breeder is done breeding, and that's what it was, as he hit the end of his productivity, they are thinner. And I may do that later, but this was my first rabbit to retire, and he was just the sweetest, sweetest snuggly bug. So I felt it would be a better, respectful thing to him to let him live out his life in luxury, it turns out. So he did that, and he was really, really happy with his new home. I would visit and he would give me, snuggles, I would give him scratchies. So he enjoyed his retirement home. March, St. Patrick's Day, the chickens turned 3 years old. Yes, I have some old ladies now. So the chickens turned 3 years old, and they are doing good. They did really well this past year, and they have adapted to their new home okay. Not okay. They're doing good. I have yet to fix their run, so I need to do that. My hopes was to do that this winter, so they have a bigger space to be in. We had a lot of rabbit things going on in March. A lot of babies, a lot of stuff going on with rabbits. So rabbits and quail, definitely a lot in the winter of 2024. Grafting, I showed you guys how to graft. So remember in January and February is when scions are taken, and scions get grafted, and it's awesome. You can grow your own tree. If you have rootstock and you know what variety you want, you can grow your own tree. You can make your own tree, not only grow your own tree. It's awesome. So we went through the peppers and the green stalks. We hatched more quail. We even told you guys all about the electric quail egg peeler, which is amazing. If you have quail eggs and you want to better your processes in the kitchen, definitely get one of those. There's a few tricks I show in that video, so check that out, and it's awesome to use that. So March was a very, very busy month, and again, we finished replacing the rabbit flooring in that month, and also showed you cheap mosquito control. It was rainy all through January, February, and March this last year. It was rainy, and I ended up having standing water in some plant pots, and had mosquito issues. So I actually showed you guys how to deal with that naturally. In April, I had my birthday. And in April, we made a couple boot brushes, which really, really work. And I went to my parents, and my dad did that with me for my birthday. And I actually showed you guys their garden in winter. It's still winter in April there. And it was a lot of fun to visit them. I freeze dried a lot of eggs starting in April because I knew I was coming here to Oregon without quail. So going into winter, this is my chickens' first winter that I've asked them to lay during the winter, and they did okay. And then two of them molted and then stopped for a long time. Rexy is back on the job, although I do know she still has to molt. So Smilo and Oviraptor tend to molt at the beginning of the winter, and Rexy tends to molt at the end. I don't know why. They were all hatched on exactly the same day. In April, we also had the eclipse. It was not a full eclipse where I was. It was a full eclipse for some people. We got, what was it? I think I named the video 52% to totality. It was not a full eclipse by far. I did record it though. I also had a spring garden tour. You guys, if you want to see what you can do in an urban setting and on a small property, look at my old garden tours. That was a 7,000 square foot lot, urban lot, with a house on it and a garage and a screen and porch. So I'm going to be making some changes here to have a food forest, a true food forest here, which I am super excited about. But the garden tours, if you're on a smaller property, even if you're not on a smaller property, maybe you have just a smaller area you want to grow in, check those out and you can see truly what you can do in a small space. I did more garden planting. There was a nest box build for rabbit nest boxes. I even showed you guys how to make a frozen rabbit in an Instapot. I mean, come on. Easy stuff. And also showed you guys how to identify male and female quail and an easy way to band them. I had looked at a few other houses before April, but in April I decided to get serious about this. And I started looking at properties. I started looking at houses. I had been Zillow shopping for years. And I was finally like, okay, I've looked at a few properties, throughout the year and actually the year before. But I was looking down, I'm like, okay, I need to get serious about this and do it. So I actually started looking at properties more seriously in April. In May, I was growing a garden. I, collected some herbs, showed you guys how to dry herbs, how to store them, and they're so wonderful to have once they're established. And I visited this property for the first time. Now, this property, I had been getting serious about stuff, looking at houses in April, and this house for some reason eluded me. I don't know why. It had been on the market for a while. I should have seen it. However, I decided, you know what, I'm going up there. I didn't want to miss out. I went up and I took a day and a half off work. Yeah. I drove up and stayed the night nearby, and then we looked at the realtor and I looked at the house that next day on a Wednesday, and the owner of the property was there to meet us and showed us around the whole property. I was here for 4 hours, guys. Usually when you have a property that you're looking at, you get 20 minutes. The owner's not really supposed to be there, but he showed us everything. I have a whole history from him. He had the property for, I think, 17 years, and the person before that was for 10 years, and they're, a neighbor of mine. So I have 27 years of knowledge, and then also story knowledge from before then, all the way back to the 30s. So I have some very unique circumstances where I know a little bit more about this property than probably most properties you would have history of, which is pretty cool. And I have people to ask questions about too. So I really liked this property. I really liked it. It felt like home immediately. And so I decided, yes, I want this property. And I went home that same day. My realtor and I drew up a bid that next day, and we already pretty much, had a lot of the stuff going because I was ready to go. And, sent that to them on that Thursday, and Friday late night, I got the news that they had accepted the offer. So then that's where everything started. There's a lot of things that happen when you sell or buy a home. So that's when all of that started. And that is when I really had to think seriously about getting my quail course done before I didn't have quail, because I didn't move them with me. So I had to have them when I did the course. I will be having quail again. In case you're worried about that, don't worry. They're coming. I just need to have the appropriate housing for them, which I could do a temporary area, and I definitely could do that. I plan to do a much bigger structure and have a lot of fun with it. So, but I had to do that. I had to think about preservation of all this food because I was just going into the summer harvest, and I really didn't want to miss out on all that, especially since I really didn't know what was on this property. I knew there was, a couple apple trees, a cherry tree, and, a couple plums. I didn't really know what was here though. I hadn't we did it in 4 hours, but on almost 70 acres, you get more of a tour than that, right? To figure out everything. So I was really focused on preserving food. I was still working full time, and working on the Raising Quill and Aviary course, and it was a lot. So we talked about in, I think, January or February, whatever it was, there was the faucet that needed to be replaced. When they did that, they broke through the backsplash. They had to do that in order to replace what was basically inside the wall. And so that had just been like sitting there from getting, ignored. And so I finally did that, and I fixed that, and I dealt with that. So that was fixed in May. We did a taste test with nasturtiums, talked about growing edible flowers and planted edible flowers, and it's amazing, guys. Nasturtiums are one of my favorite flowers to eat. We also did a lot of talking about rabbits. So rabbits cooking, rabbits growing, and even have baby rabbits. And in May, I had to start preparing the property for sale. So on top of everything else I was already doing and everything else I was trying to accomplish, I now had a timeline, and I needed to prepare the property for sale. In June, I had a lot going on, guys. I try my best to stay on schedule for you guys because I do know that, there's a whole algorithm thing about being consistent in posting. And I think I did pretty well. Sometime in 2024, I think it was, I took out my Sunday videos, and that's probably something that's going to remain. I have so much going on up here now. It's probably going to remain. So hopefully you're missing them, but not really missing them too much. Hopefully they were good while they lasted, and you find these other videos just as helpful and good. So in June, I was busting my butt to get the property ready for sale, and actually had the open house in June. Yes, a month after, a few weeks, a month after I had put in an offer on this place. It was already time to sell my place. I was doing all sorts of harvests. We had blackberries and peaches and all sorts of stuff to harvest and preserve. I did a summer garden tour, and I am going to link to the first one of that. It was a 2-part series over here, so that if you're in a small space, exactly what you can do, what your place can look like in the height of fruiting season. So I encourage you to watch those older videos. If you are urban, and I'm no longer urban area, if you are urban, I have like 3 years of videos being in an urban area. So definitely take advantage of that. Watch the older videos. And what I'm doing now can also apply to you. So let's see what's possible. I also, in that point, did a video for lessons learned from 11 years of building a food forest. And I think I'm going to put a link here as well, because that one has a lot of good information, and which I am bringing with me. I actually made the video for me so I would remember some of these things moving forward when I actually do a food forest in this new location. So that was a really good thing to do. Open house was over the weekend. My house was very popular because the inventory is very low, and accepted an offer on that following Tuesday. So that happened extremely fast, and we had some things built in, both this and the other house, that allowed some extra time to be there because I needed some extra time. The people here needed some extra time, so therefore I needed that extra time as well. So that was built in, and I was able to finish out basically most of the summer with my food forest and my food before moving. So that was June. In July, the heat of the summer, I taught you guys how to cook in your car. We cooked beef in the car like it was a solar oven, because it is. And you can amplify that heat if you do it a certain way. So that is always fun, because people always don't believe me. And then, people walk by on the street and they're like, what the heck is in that car? Yes, it is food. I have a small playlist on that in case you are interested. The apples were fruiting again, And so we did some preservation, did some recipes, and had a lot of fun with that. I made cucumber juice. Guys, the cucumbers I had this year were so good. And I know I saved seeds, but I don't know where they are because I don't think I put them with my other seeds. I know they came here with me. So let's hope I can find them. Yes, but I made cucumber juice, and these cucumbers made really great cucumber juice. They were just tasty all around. The rabbits and the chickens went to the vet so that they could have their import permit to move to Oregon, and the chickens had their pullurum test. The vet messed up, and I had to go down and do the pullurum test again. I put the wrong color cap on it, and the samples were tested for something else. Anyway, so in case you're curious, if you're in the Bay Area in California, your closest vet is an hour south, more than an hour south of you, unless that has changed by now. Which I was actually surprised because in 2020, a whole bunch of people got chickens, and I figured there has to be some sort of chicken vet in the Bay Area, but nobody took advantage of that. I don't know, guys. I started to pack in July. And this process was very, very quick. Started to pack in July. I closed on this house in July. Started to pack in July, and unfortunately, Parmesan, my old buck, he passed. So he had a really, really good retirement home with my friend, and she cared about him a whole lot. And I feel good that his last days were with her. And he passed. So he did end up going to the vet. He broke his back somehow. Sometimes that happens with rabbits. And yeah. So anyway, he had a good last few months. At the end of July, I came up here for a few days while the electrician was doing some electrician work here, had the internet set up. Guys, I have fiber internet. I didn't have fiber internet in the Bay Area. How we have fiber internet here, I mean, I guess they're doing more of that. So I'm okay with that. But that is when I came up at the very end of July. And that's also when, at the very beginning of August, it was when I saw that Mama Kitty and Ringo came with the house. There's one more Simba that I never saw after I came here, so I don't know what happened to him. But Mama Kitty had babies. I didn't know where she put them. She didn't actually show them to me for 2 months, but her belly got a little skinnier. In August, that was my last partial month in California. And I saved cucumber seeds then. I harvested some aloe. I really should have done is I should have dug up some and brought it with me, but I didn't. But I did harvest some aloe. I have some in a jar for in case of burns or sunburn. And I did my last garden tour. So last garden tour, I'll put a link up here. I said I was going to do that earlier. I'm not going to do that because I only have 5. But I'll put a link up here to the last garden tour, and that was meant to help the next people in their gardening journey, which they appeared to be very excited about. Turns out they lied to me and they blitzed the whole thing. So if you would like to see what it used to look like, watch that video. And also, that's what you can do with your yard, and you can do amazing things, guys. You can do absolutely amazing things. So then I moved here. Moved the animals with me the last trip, and started my new journey, started my new adventure. And now in Oregon, in Douglas County, Pacific Northwest, and it is a beautiful, beautiful area. And the person before me left a garden for me. She didn't get to harvest any. It wasn't ripe yet, but it's amazing that she did that. And I was able to come into a home with a garden established, which is an amazing feeling for a gardener. I have to say, do this if you are a gardener, even if you're not, couple bucks in the ground, there you go. And it was fabulous to be harvesting right away, basically in August. And that was just amazing. I also had pretty quickly the apples that are here, the pears that are here, they were both ripe. The little cherry plums were ripe. There's so much food here. And at the end of the month, I went to Quail and Homesteading Con, and that is when we had a very soft launch for the Raising Quail and Aviaries course, and that again is going to be available through my website somehow. I'll at least have a link to it from there. I haven't figured out exactly where that will live, but again, I'm looking for inexpensive solutions so you guys can get that information, and it's all in one place and it's referenceable and all of that. So watch for that coming up. So I spoke at Quail and Homesteading Convention about raising quail and rabbits, and what I was talking about was the raviary. Now you won't see that on this property. On this property it doesn't make sense to have that because I have the space to have both things independently. However, if you are in a small situation, having a raviary, that's a term I coined, is a fantastic idea as long as you know that you have to be the chicken and rake things in, because the quail don't do that. So I talked about that, spoke about that, and had a great time at Quail and Homesteading Convention. It was awesome. Now, because I had just moved, my parents, I had asked them, I'm like, I don't know if I'll know anybody. I don't know if I'll trust anybody. Like, I don't know who's there yet. So I asked them if they would come out. I had that, and then also went to the National Heirloom Expo like 2 weeks later. So my parents came up. They were very, very nice and about that, and watched the animals and, you know, picked out the garden and stuff like that. So had a little vacation, and so that was really good. At the National Heirloom Expo, I was an exhibitor, and so that was really fun. I always have these boards up and a question, and then everybody gets to answer. It's a lot of fun. And so I did actually come back and show you guys some of those videos. I don't actually remember if I have all of those yet. I think I might have one or two more that I haven't shared with you yet. So I'll get to those. But the Heirloom Expo is awesome. It is an annual event down in Ventura County at the fairgrounds. And it's done by Baker Creek, which is rareseeds.com. So they're awesome. While I was there, I recorded a video to meet the seed historian for Baker Creek. And she is amazing. And if you haven't watched that conversation, watch that conversation because it is a really fun conversation. All the history of these things she has in her head, it seems. And September is really when I started getting into property walks. So I had really kind of concentrated down by the house so much. I had started doing property walks, just figuring out what's here, looking around, seeing what I can identify, seeing what I need to learn, all of that. And so that's continuing. That's a continuing process, but I do recognize a lot of things. I do know a lot of them already, and it is my goal to learn all of the plants that are here. And I don't think that's going to be difficult. I think it will take time. The grasses are going to take longer, but at least I have a good basis for that. So there you go. In October, I finally got some good things rolling with the roof. This house had 3 layers of roofing on it, and I had people remove those. There was a lot of rot underneath it, and they replaced it with metal roofing, which should never be replaced again. So hopefully that's what happens, and it stays in fantastic condition. It looks great. It acts great, and it has a lot of fire protection. So the roofing started. I have a leach field that began being put in, and so this house didn't have a leach field. Yeah, house didn't have a leach field, so put one in, and so that will be all good to go. In October, I really got enthused about finding food. I know a lot of food plants in similar plant communities, and so I was able to identify a lot of things I knew. And so I did, finding food in the pasture video right here. There's a part 2 as well. And those videos, I think, will be helpful because I'll be able to look back and say, oh yeah, that's where that, hawthorn was. That's where that crabapple is. That's where that whatever. There's a lot of plums, a lot of rose hips, a lot of hawthorn, and a lot of rose hips. Yeah. Did I say that already? I don't know. But there's a lot of good food here. I taught you guys about how to find vitamin C or grow vitamin C, and also fats. We talked about that as well. And so that is a whole lot of good information, and good information for me to find on my property. Oh yeah, and blackberries. Tons of blackberries. October was also when the filters got put in for the well, and the water was more acidic than it should be, and so that was dealt with the pH up, and the aluminum is a little bit higher than it should be. It's not in the red, but we put in a reverse osmosis underneath the sink. The whole house option would have been really expensive. So I just have where my drinking water is, and that's good enough for me so far. October is also when the cats kind of went crazy. So I had a video of gardening with a cat. That was when Ringo was trying to figure out how he could be a shoulder parrot. It's hilarious. You should watch it. And then also when Mama Kitty decided that I was okay enough to meet her kittens. So they were, again, like 2 months old when I met them. They're born at the beginning of August. And they're still not quite used to me. One of them is starting to come around. We'll see if I can work with that one. I have a name in my head, and if it's a boy, it's going to name that. So anyway, yeah, kittens. So there's 4 cats now, and everybody's going to get fixed. I am in the process of getting appointments for that. It is ridiculous how late out those appointments can be. I did not realize that in this area. Months out. Like, vets told me March. And they told me that in December. So anyway, hopefully they'll get fixed soon. In November, there was more leach field work. There was more work. And I started breeding rabbits. It really could have started in October. I just was so busy that I decided to push it back. So I started breeding rabbits in November, and nut harvest started. So I have a video on the nuts of the Pacific Northwest that I have, and there's quite a few. So I look forward to next year when I'm more aware about where these plants are and their timing, and maybe I can get even more nuts. So I didn't actually harvest a whole lot of them this year, but I do know what's on the property now, and I will continue to learn that, and it will be a really good thing. Now the chickens have this humongous chicken coop, and I call it the palace, and they have so many nest boxes to choose from, and they haven't chosen one. Actually, at the timing that I'm saying now, I think Rexy has picked a favorite, but let's not hold our breath. At least in November, she didn't have a clue yet. None of the girls did. They didn't really know where they were laying. It was a different day, different place every day. And it was pretty funny to film her when I wasn't there. It was only Rexy that was laying at that time, and see where she was checking out. So that's pretty cool. The bomb cyclone came through. Oh my goodness. Tons of rain. And at this new property, I definitely learned about drainage, and I learned about where the water flows, which I'm actually kind of thankful for that it happened this year and not, next year, because now I have some things to learn about. So I know where the puddles form. I know where water comes out of the ground where it didn't before. I know all of these things, and that is helpful for planning purposes for later. For example, there will be a French drain going behind the house. I was considering, maybe I don't need it. Yeah, there will be one going behind the house. The other part of that is in December, we got even more rain, and that saturation just went up in the soil horizons. And boy, that was even more flooding and even more water just because the soil was so saturated. So definitely started learning about the rain and where it fell on there. November was also when I started some more in-depth rabbit videos. And I hope those people that are watching them, they've been helpful for you. I kind of skipped on some of it, so we're going to finish it up with a different rabbit. We followed Rigatoni's babies, and maybe this next time we might follow Penne's babies or Ravioli's babies, or even Risotto, but Risotto is a ways off, so maybe not her. So we're gonna follow some more baby bunnies to tell the rest of the story. And apologies for the gap in that. I got busy. In December, oh my gosh, so much going on. In December, I continued the in-depth breeding rabbits, rabbit videos, and hopefully you enjoyed those. I got a P.O. box, a business P.O. box. So that is going to be in the description of all the videos now. If you would like to mail me something fun and kind, that's where you access that. So one of the 3 heating sources in the house are mini splits, and so I had someone out for that, and there was actually some repair that needed to happen. So that was really good, and they prep for something else that I'm doing. So that is really good. I'm glad the heating is working and that I have multiple potentials for heat. I have the mini splits, I have the wood pellet stove, which is electric, and then also the fireplace. So there are multiple options, and I like multiple options. I also called the water master, had a great conversation with her. There's a bunch of questions I have about water here, and it's going to be a little while until I get some answers and some, some potential stuff going on. So hold on for that. I did more property walks. We walked down a logging road that had trees growing in it. It was 30 years old. So the last time it was logged out here is about 30 years. And I planted up the cold frame. So I had previously planted garlic, I think in November. It might have actually been in December. But it's actually growing, guys. It is. It is. I haven't filmed it yet, but I'll show you guys later. My garlic is growing. It did not drown like I thought it did. And so that was the first thing I planted. But the first permanent plant, even though it's not in a permanent location, it's a permanent plant. Hot and spicy oregano, just like my old house. So it's a wonderful herb and amazing herb. Another big thing began in December is my house started getting leveled. So this is something I knew about. The floor was sloped. They're unsloping the floor. And so that started in December. It'll continue in January. And it's a much bigger job than what they thought it, or what I thought it was. I think they knew what they were getting themselves into. But yeah, more money spent than I thought I was going to when I bought the property. And I shared with you my first vision of food forest, and so that is what happened in December. Is we talked about food forest at the very end, and pretty awesome. So that leaves us with what's happening in 2025. 2025 is going to be quite full. 2025 is going to be fun. 2025 is going to be fruitful. 2025 is going to be filled with joy. That is what's happening in 2025. Because the house fixes will be completed. I can unpack all of my things. The garden will be expanded. The food forest will be started. Not promising you planting is going to happen. Some trees are going to be cleared to make way for food forest. It's going to be selective logging, not a blanket landscape. I want the older trees to continue to harbor that lovely mycorrhizal network underneath to share with the new plantings. And guys, I have a lot more exploring to do. We're going to be preserving things. We're going to be talking about cooking things. Cook with me. You can cook with me. We do a monthly Cook with Me live. You can join the channel. We call it Katrina's Kits, named by one of my subscribers. And we cook something every month. And it's amazing. It's amazing to share that community. It's amazing to do all of that. Every week there is a live chat, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Monday nights, and you can join me there, ask questions, join the community and talking about stuff. And it's a lot of fun. So this year, you can learn all about raising quail in an aviary through my course. There will be a link on the website, sowandtare.com. There will be a link on that website to wherever it will live. And I will be announcing that once it gets figured out and is all, all the bugs worked out and all of that. So that's happening, and we are just going to have fun here. There's going to be some new animals. I plan on getting quail this year again. It'll be in the summer probably. I might wait till towards the end of the year, depending on what's going on. I will likely be getting more chickens, and there's a possibility of some goats in my future. So, yeah, stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching this. I hope you had a busy year, a successful year this last year, and are looking forward to all the things you have control over in your life this year, and your own journey in homesteading or raising plants or raising animals, gardening, foraging, all of that. We're going to have that all here for you to learn and share your experiences on Monday nights. Come on and share your experiences. We all like to learn from each other. So whether or not you are in the Pacific Northwest, you're welcome to learn from this channel, teach me some things, and we will have a good year. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in 2025.